Depending Perspectives. This is our 5th episode in the series now, I believe. My name is Angel.
My name's Grace.
And I'm Allie.
And today we're going to be talking about space.
Okay, so Angel, what does space refer to in a writing center?
So space can refer to a number of things. So obviously, you know, the most obvious example of space is like the physical space. But I feel like space also has implications beyond just, you know, the physical. So space has a lot of different purposes in a writing center, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I think space is mostly just the physical space, but also the effects of, you know, how that makes people feel in the environment, and then how that facilitates learning.
Okay. So why is space important?
I feel like when you bring a student into a consultation, where you choose to sit, how you choose to sit, makes or breaks a consultation for them. Because if I have a student who is going to feel really disconnected if I don't sit next to them, they're not going to be involved, they're going to feel like it's too complicated. If I sit across from them, I've totally ruined their entire experience coming to the studio, and I've made them really uncomfortable. So like, I need to make sure that I know what that student's going to appreciate. If they're going to appreciate me sitting next to them, feeling really collaborative, feeling like, you know, I'm really their peer. And sometimes students really want like a very professional kind of consultation. Like, they want you to sit across from them. They want to feel like in a business meeting, you know? Mm-hmm. So I feel like space is incredibly important because it determines whether or not your student's going to come back, whether or not they're going to get anything out of it, or really if they're just going to be comfortable in here.
And what about the physical spaces in the studio?
I feel like those are all good for, like, purpose. So, like, say for example, like, it wouldn't be right for somebody to necessarily practice a speech in the greenhouse. You could probably do it, but I don't know that it would really be effective. It would be more effective to use like one of the presentation rooms or breakout rooms where it's like a closed off space where you and your consultant can focus and sit down together, and it kind of eliminates some of that awkward tension if there's other people around.
And the greenhouse refers to this big open space behind us that literally, it's like the hub for the entire studio. It's where we all sit and congregate, and it's where a lot of our consultations happen. But like Angel said, we do have these presentation and breakout rooms that provide kind of a closed-in space that makes students feel more private, and oftentimes, like, when you're doing speeches, it makes them feel more comfortable because they're not, like, giving a speech in front of everybody, you know? And that ends up making them able to give a speech in front of everybody because they've learned how to do it in a smaller space with one person in the audience.
Okay, so we've talked about space physically, and physical spaces we have in the studio. How does space facilitate learning?
I feel like one of the big things, even in the studio, is like our color scheme. Our color scheme is so bright and so warm and so happy.
It's
like,
inviting.
It's inviting, yeah. And it makes students feel comfortable. Like, if I were coming into a space that had a bunch of neutral colors, that like nobody seemed like they were having a good time, I wouldn't want to be in here. And so that refers to, like, even it partially refers to physical space because it's what things look like to a student. And it's about who you hire too. Because if you're hiring consultants who are going to be grumpy the whole time and make the whole studio feel grumpy, like, it's just not going to work for students. They're just not going to feel comfortable. So you have to make sure you're hiring people who are happy, who are there to work, but also to be this kind of encouraging, inspiring group.
And I think another thing that we didn't get to touch on with like the physical space was just the fact that like we've been moving around. That's something to acknowledge. Like, even like here right now, this is the Discovery classroom. So all of the furniture in here is designed, you know, this room is designed for us to be able to move around in workshops and to kind of like play around and like be able to move around so that we can see each other, and it kind of fosters collaboration. Like, I was in a workshop with our coordinator like last week sometime, and nobody was really kind of giving anything. Like, we would ask questions and it was just like dead silent, which is really uncomfortable. But the minute that we got everybody, like we physically moved the chairs, we got everybody up to where they were in like a half circle facing each other. So that way it was kind of, they kind of had to look at one another. Like, they had to look at us. They had to sit in the uncomfortable tension. And it's because we used the furniture to make everything a little bit more dynamic.
Yeah, and that's such a nice thing about this studio is almost all of our furniture is movable. Like you can take it just about anywhere, and we do all the time. Everyone moves chairs in here, like chairs that look like they should belong at a table or at 4 other tables, because it helps students feel comfortable in our seating. And like thinking about these chairs, when you're in a classroom, oftentimes you have those kind of like stiff chairs. And while the Discovery Classroom is supposed to model a regular classroom, it has these chairs that allow students, like all of us, to sit crazy, to sit however they feel most comfortable. And it makes it more relaxing and more inviting, because they're not sticked up straight. They're not thinking, well, hey, I have to be on my game right now. It's a comforting environment.
Okay. So space is important.
Space is important, yes.
Space is important.
Especially just how you act in a space and how the space looks when students are in it.
It's really all about like that first impression. That's really what space is. It's kind of setting it, making an impression.
You know, if they come in and their first consultant that they work with is, I don't know, wearing gray clothes and they look downtrodden and they're upset, like they're not going to come back. They're not going to come back, especially if like they're not taking them to seating that they're going to feel comfortable in. If they're not engaging with them in the right kind of way, like it makes or breaks it, like I said, you know. It changes everything.
And I mean, that's why we asked too at the top of consultations, like, oh, are you like okay with us sitting here? Are you comfortable here? And you know, if not, like you move, or you know. And I always try to let students like pick which seat they want to sit in first. That way, like I can tell, like you're gonna kind of set the vibe. If you don't want me to sit next to you, that's fine. Like it gives the student agency, which is an important thing too, because it makes them feel like they're in control in some way.
We have a lot of corners in the studio too, so like, you know, a student might sit here and you can sit catty-cornered from them, but that still allows them that separation without it being across a table where it really puts up this kind of blockade. But it keeps it from feeling like, oh, I'm over their shoulder too, you know?
Yeah, like looking over their work and like judging their work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really just all about what a student's gonna feel most comfortable with.
Main focus.
Main focus.
All right. Well, that's been our 5th podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you stick around for our next one.
And then go shut off the camera.